Right now, investigators are looking into the cause of the wildfires burning along the Front Range. So we want to go beyond the fire themselves and talk about the liability of these fires as officials look into the cause of each one.
That's right. Joining us now to talk a little bit more about that is 9 News legal expert Whitney Traylor. Whitney, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so if someone is caught, what charges could they face here?
Yeah, well, I think the most obvious charge would be arson. And that, of course, is if they, and the question is, well, did they intend to do it? Did they not intend to do it? And so if they set a fire to property or structures knowingly or recklessly, so that's a real big issue, because sometimes people say, well, if I didn't know the law, I didn't know, but recklessly is ignoring a substantial risk of certain fire, essentially. And so here, whether they did it intentionally, which hopefully they didn't, or they did it accidentally by not being careful, they could still be liable for arson. And then, of course, there's civil liability for negligence and breach of duty and things like that. And that's where it gets really complicated, trying to figure out who did it, where it started, and who's liable.
If someone is caught, can they get jail time for this?
Yes, they can get jail time for arson. It's ranging from a first-degree felony all the way to a misdemeanor, and that depends on how the DA charges it, which is dependent on the various factors. And so we saw this. There was with the XL fire back then, and they were trying to bring those criminal charges. And I remember the DA had an extensive press conference saying why they chose not to pursue those criminal charges, because they didn't think they could prove them.
But I want to expand on something you said too, which was the difference between doing it on purpose and an accident.
Yeah.
Could there be, repercussions if you did it accidentally as well?
Yeah, for sure there could be repercussions, and especially on the civil side. So that would be a negligence claim, and whether you knew that you did it or not, you could face liability on the civil side. And the big issue there, though, and why these issues are so complicated, is because it takes so much time. They have to figure out who did it. There's a lot of experts. It's very expensive. So as I was doing my research, I saw a lot of these cases settle because of that expense and the uncertainty.
There's so many factors, I'm sure, that go into it. But talk about burn bans, and if a burn ban is in place, how that might change the circumstances.
Right. So the burn bans, there's 2 points on the burn bans. So the burn bans are, I think, effective, and they prohibit, when it's certain conditions, they prohibit shooting fireworks, shooting guns, open fires, unless they're in a very isolated situation. So I think the burn bans are helpful, but there's also the controlled burns that apparently is controversial. I didn't realize it was as controversial. And so this is where, the firefighters actually set the fires to eliminate bush and other things that could be combustible. And so what they found is that there's a lot of regulations, there's a lot of people who are kind of against it, and some of these controlled burns actually lead to other fires, but that's very rare. And so I think the firefighters, there's legislation being proposed where they're trying to get more controlled burns.
All right, and Whitney, where can people go if they want more information? Of course, we could talk about this all day long. We're limited, so where can we send them if they want to learn a little bit more about this?
Well, there's a lot of places they can go. One is the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control. So they have a website with a lot of good information. There's information on burn bans and things like that, and where you can go to get help. Obviously, if you've suffered some loss, the first thing is to contact your insurance company. And unfortunately, I'm not here to bash the insurance companies, but they can be difficult. They can make this difficult, and this is an extremely trying time. And so the red tape that you have to go through, and the trying to avoid those kind of claims. So I would go to the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control. The governor's office has a good website, your insurance company, and then if it ultimately comes to it, you may have to actually hire an attorney to advocate, because there's still people from the Marshall Fire still trying to get their situation sorted out.
I feel like this is just a good reminder right now. We all know it's hot and dry. Know the rules that are in your county. Know how dry, and you just really have to take responsibility.
Do your best.
Exactly.
To mitigate that.
That's a great point, and it actually makes a difference. So these burn bans and things like that, it actually, it's sort of hard to prove a negative, but they are showing, the statistics show that it is preventing more wildfires. Yeah.
Very interesting. All right, Whitney, as always, thanks so much for coming in.